Welcome back, everybody, to Niko's Comic Book Hauls and Reviews. I'm your host, Niko, and today I'll be showing off and reviewing the books that I ended up hauling in the month of May 2022. I'll be showing the books off and giving you my thoughts on them, the things that I have read before, the things that I've read for the first time, and the things that I have yet to read and I'm looking forward to checking out for the first time. I'll be talking about all that here today on this episode. And if this is your first time checking out the Late Night Collectors Community YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw here today. Hit me up in the comments if you have any comments on the video, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified about whenever these videos drop every other month. We also do a weekly comic book review show on new single issue releases that I do with my buddy Chris, called Comic Shop Talk. Those come out weekly. We review and talk about the weekly single issues that we pick up week to week. And this is more of like the collected editions review show that I do here. And we have all kinds of other content. Check out our playlists. Once again, subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell if you want to be notified of when these do come out. But without further ado, let's get into the books. And I'm going to start off with the books that I actually have read before or for the first time that I picked up throughout the month of May 2022. All right. First up, we got Demon Days Treasury Edition, drawn and written by Peach Momoko, who's a very a popular cover artist these days for Marvel, primarily, as far as I know. And this was her first, I think, sequential comic work, at least through Marvel Comics, that we've yet to see. And they came out with a Treasury Edition that collects all of the Demon Days issues that she's put out over the past year. I think it was like they're bringing them out like quarterly. I think it was like every 3 months. And they were, I guess, oversized issues, each one focusing on, like, I guess, a reimagining of the X-Men or X-Men characters in like a Japanese folklore style, if I'm not mistaken. I read the issues as they were coming out. And so this one collects Demon Days, X-Men Mariko, Cursed Web, Rising Storm, and Blood Feud, and material from King in Black #4 and Elektra Black, White, and Blood #4, which I guess she did maybe a short story in Elektra. I can't recall what she did in King in Black 4. I mean, if she actually had like a short story in that or not, um but yeah, I mostly picked this up for the artwork. I really dig her artwork. The storytelling, the stories were all right. I mean, you can tell maybe she's not a seasoned writer. I do like the idea of reimagining these characters, like a Japanese folklore type style. That's very interesting to me, and I believe it's Japanese. I don't want to say Japanese and then it turn out to be Chinese. I believe that's what it is, but if I'm mistaken, my apologies. Uh, I did read them. They were all right. They weren't my favorite. I also think that, like, again, the artwork the artwork is so good that I like these treasury editions, and I like how they print them in these oversized format. I'm actually quite a fan of this format. I do like it. It's kind of like they're absolutes essentially, because they don't do an absolute size thing, Marvel. But lately, they've been putting out these other things called gallery editions, which are like focused on like singular stories that are like famous that they've been putting out. I haven't so much bought into that though, although the Weapon X one of that was looked pretty tempting. I almost got that, but I have been liking the Treasury editions, which some of these miniseries, they've been, the first actual release has been this format as opposed to like a smaller paperback. There's some things I wish they did do in this format that they don't. I don't know how they pick and choose. I guess, whatever they think is like a more of a premiere kind of format for like a really good artist and stuff like that. But why didn't they do something like this for Daniel Warren Johnson and Beta Ray Bill? I'm not sure. There's one good example of like a 5-issue miniseries that they could have done in this format, yet they didn't. But then you got Tried More, Silver Surfer Black, that they did in this edition. Obviously, deserved of it. The same with this one, and I know I talked about the Amazing Fantasy in my last haul video by Kari Andrews. So like some things they make a good decision on doing it, some things they haven't been. But I wish they kind of pumped out some more of these treasury editions because I do enjoy the format. That being said, this story, like I said, is just okay. It's not like I think it's like you got to read this is the best thing ever type of area at all. It is entertaining. It's interesting to see, and the art and the visuals is what you're kind of going to be coming here for the most part, I would say. So yeah, it is worth it in that sense. And I think she's actually going to be starting her next Demon Days kind of saga, like a set of issues that she's doing right now. I think that's supposed to be that's coming after this series. I forgot what it's called, but it's going to be coming out soon. So if they continue to collect those issues in this type of format, I'd be very happy, because I do like just looking through this. I will reread it at some point, I'm sure, but I do like looking at the artwork. Really nicely done artwork. So there you go. That's Peach Momoko Demon Days Treasury Edition. All right. So it feels like we waited forever for this, but finally it's here. This is the Parker Martini edition, Last Call. This is the second of two Martini editions collecting these like oversized, like library, even probably bigger than library edition kind of and like absolute size books, slightly bigger, I believe. But it's the second of two that collects basically all of Darwin Cook's Parker series that he had done. Now they had solicited this, I think, or at least started talking about it shortly after his death a few years ago, and it was supposed to come out, I think, last year originally, or at least it was solicited like earlier in the pandemic, maybe even 2 years ago, and it's finally come out after delays that occurred throughout the pandemic. And then I don't know if it's because of paper shortage or whatever else, but like, look at this. They're nicely done books. Like they're nicely kind of like big leather bound looking books, like slipcase. And the nice thing about this edition is this collects, I think, the third and fourth Parker book that Darwin did. He did about 4, I think, before he died. And this collects the last 2 here, as well as a short story written by Ed Brubaker and drawn by Sean Phillips, who I'm a huge fan of. And Ed Brubaker was friends with Darwin Cook, so like they worked on Catwoman together, so they've had history. There's a really nice introduction that he does for him here, and there's actually even a interview. I believe that's a Darwin drawn. I guess, is that by Sean Phillips or is that him? No, maybe that's a Darwin Cook actually drawing right there. There's a nice forward by Scott Dunbier, who's part of IDW Comics, who like helped put this out. I think Slayground and the score, what's collected in here. The score being actually my favorite of all the Parker books. I actually got that signed, and a little doodle in it by Darwin Cook, which is really cool. When I met him at TCAF years ago, where I saw a talk with him and Ed Brubaker here in Toronto. It was fantastic. It was probably the best comic thing I've ever seen before, honestly, out of like, a panel or anything else. But the score, that's my favorite Parker book, and that's in here. Slate Ground, which is good too. And then this, there's a 3. I think this 3 guys walk into a bar. That might be the interview that they did. They did an interview with the Bruce Timm, Scott Dunbier, and I think Ed Brubaker, and they actually wrote out the script for it, like the transcript of their conversation that they had, I guess, somewhere, remembering Darwin. And it was just very truthful and nice and true to who he was. And it was one of those things where they're like, oh, he wasn't perfect, he had issues with all of us here and with other people throughout his career and blah 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 blah. But then they actually told a lot of really good, touching stories and stuff that they admired about him, and talking about how talented he was. And I'm a huge fan of Darwin Cook's. So yeah, but apparently he's a complicated fellow who had issues with people, I guess, throughout his course of his life. But I'd rather them talk truthfully about him, and I thought that really spoke to the man's character and who he was, and actually a good remembrance of that individual. So I really appreciated reading that. That was really interesting. And he got some prose from Parker, I guess one of the novels in there, and process art. I think tomorrow, I think that's the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips story. But yeah, let's take a look at some of this art here. Darwin is the master. I mean, the Parker books, it's a shame that he was taken from us so soon, or else he probably would have kept adapting the different Parker stories in this fashion. But I mean, this is such a nice format to have it in, these oversized books. Great looking Darwin Cook art in this format. Yeah, the score, this is my favorite one. Anyways, I can't wait to revisit that in this format. And there is a volume 1 of Last Call. It's called the Martini edition. This one's called Martini edition Last Call, which is volume 2. I believe they may have reprinted the first one, or they are going to. I wasn't paying attention to that release just because I already own it, but I'm glad that I have both of these on my shelf. Um, I still kept my score copy. I got rid of my other copies, the smaller versions, because they're like, more like pocketbook size almost. Like I would say though, I did keep the score one because it is like that little drawing, like a doodle that I have from Darwin in it. And I talked to him at the show, and I told him that was my favorite of all his Parker books. So yeah, I was really I'm gonna be keeping that. Yeah, just all the choices he did, the color palette choices that he did for each book. Yeah, this is Slay Ground here. See, the other one was yellow. This one's blue. I remember asking him at the TCAF show too when I was when I saw him talk about the Parker books, because there was a talk about that, and then there's the talk about with him and Ed Brubaker talking about Catwoman and everything else. And I remember asking about like his color process, like how he chooses which color to use for these books. And he's like, and he joked that he just kind of just chooses them all willy nilly. Like he's just like, yeah, well, I just do whatever. And then he like, after he made the joke, he's like, no, obviously, like the mood of this book is whatever, and that's why I picked blue. And this one, no, of course, but everything it seemed like because he was a designer too, like he worked in um, I don't think he was an ad man, but he worked in like I don't even say graphic design. Like he works for like magazines, newspapers, and shit like that. So yeah, I guess he was just a designer of sorts, and so he knew these choices. He made all the right choices, like and just had such a knowledge and reverence for that kind of stuff. And it just like, and it came easy to him, but the man was a genius, like an artistic genius. So like it was just funny how I remember when I asked that question at the talk that he gave, it came so easily to him, but yet like everyone else is just like, yeah, clearly that's not like how would we know that? Like you're the visionary behind this shit. So yeah, this is the Sean Phillips story right here that Ed Brubaker wrote. That was pretty fun. I really liked that. Nice homage to him. Yeah, and this is the interview that I was referring to. So anyways, yeah, definitely go pick this up, guys. Well worth it. If you haven't checked out the Parker books, or if you're a fan of Darwin Cook, honestly, you got to check this out, everyone. This is Last Call slipcase. I'm sure this is one of those things that when it goes out of print, it's going to be hard to find. So all right. Image released some great releases in May of 2022. One of them being this deluxe hardcover of Firepower, which is a fantastic series. Actually, I should take that back. Image released 3 great deluxe hardcover editions of books with all fantastic artists that I really enjoy. And it actually came out June 1st, because now June 1st or June 2nd. So it was right on the cusp of it going from May to June. But since they were only the 3 books that I ended up picking up out of collected editions on that day of new comic book releases, I think it was June 2nd. I decided to throw them in this video. So yes, I didn't technically get this in May, but since it was 2 days in and only the 3, I figured, hey, what the hell, I'd lighten the load a little bit for the June haul video, and I'd include them in this conversation here. So I've been reading this issue in issues when it comes out. It originally started with like I guess like a 6 or 7, 8 issue kind of volume 1 essentially, that basically set up this series, and then it went to issues, which was a very interesting move that Robert Kirkman did. He's always trying like little things like that with the comic book market. So it originally came out almost like an OGN, like material that was never collected in single issues, which is collected in here, as well as the first 2 paperback volumes of issues. So yeah, in this edition is the Firepower Prelude. That's what they tried to call that. That's what they called that first paperback that came out, which again, I said it was at least like 7 or 8 issues worth of material. And then it collects Firepower 1 to 12 of the series. So I read this, monthly when it does come out in issues. I love it. It's a great like kung fu kind of epic type thing. It definitely reminded me of Iron Fist at first, just with like a family aspect to it, at least some aspects of him training, in like up in the mountains somewhere, like a Kunlun type stuff, type of situation. But since then I think it's become more of like, yeah, like a kung fu like movie, epic type deal. Like there's all kinds of different people showing up now from different like dojos and stuff like that, different types of fighters that are happening in the current ongoing series. The art's by Chris Somney, written by Robert Kirkman. The Chris Somney art is fantastic. I mean, like, look at this. He's one of the best artists in comics, I feel. Honestly, like he is so good. I really like his like use of shadow and like his line work is always really spectacular. He's an artist that's worked over at Marvel for years, known mostly, I guess, for the Mark Waid run on Daredevil. He was one of the main artists of that. But he's killing it on this series. So like, there's dragons, there's fireballs being thrown, there's kung fu type stuff going on. It's great. I really, really love this book. If you like any of those elements, or you just like good comic book storytelling and art, Robert Kirkman's doing a great job of this, but I think that Chris Somney's doing the heavy lifting. Like it's a very free-flowing kind of adventure, fast-paced comic book that Robert Kirkman is writing, but it is a lot of fun. Anyways, this guy trains, he trains to become like this crazy warrior, and then he ends up learning how to, I guess, throw fireballs, and then you fast forward after this kind of prelude storyline, then he's kind of living a normal life with a family and everything else, and then like I guess this part of his past or his life basically comes back, and I'm not gonna say comes back to haunt him, because it's kind of been it's more about responsibility to like his the people that trained him and their way of life and everything else that comes to his forefront of his him and his family life, and he has to kind of deal with it and go back to his roots essentially, and it's been really great. And there's a dragon now in it. I'm talking about the current ongoing series just because I've been reading in issues and I had to double dip and get this hardcover. So yeah, definitely pick this up, guys, if you missed out on anything else. There's like I said, there's probably about almost 20 issues worth of material in this volume if it's 1 to 12 plus the prelude. So don't miss out on this nice deluxe hardcover that came out from Image Comics. I think it retailed for about $50. I want to say, yeah, $50 US. So great stuff. And speaking of great deluxe editions from Image Comics with fantastic killer art, we're talking about Murder Falcon here from Daniel Warren Johnson, Mike Spicer on colors. Daniel Warren Johnson, one of my favorite artists in comics currently. Again, speaking of other great comic artists, that's brought out deluxe editions from Image, and this also came out that 2nd of June, right at the start of June here. Murder Falcon was previously collected in a paperback, but I had to upgrade to the oversized deluxe edition of this. It's basically rock infused kind of action storyline with like some sad moments, again, some human elements to it, as Daniel Warren Johnson always likes to kind of throw in there. But great, fantastic art by Daniel Warren Johnson, which is, I guess, the main highlight here. But again, it's all a very touching human story that he's telling in here with the crazy, like I said, heavy metal infused action, and of course there's a guy that's part of a band, and they rock out and use those. It's kind of like Bill and Ted-ish, I guess, in a way. But man, this was a great storyline. It's been a while since I've read this, but again, I'll probably be revisiting it. And now I have this deluxe edition, it's going to be glorious to look at in this format as opposed to the paperback. So definitely check this out, guys. Even if it's your first foray into his work, this is a great little mini series that you should check out. I think it's 1 to 6, I guess this collects the entire Murder Falcon miniseries and Skybound X short story. Oh yeah, it also has a short story that came out after the paperback that they did in their anthology series. So I think it was a 6-issue miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. 1 to 8. I'm sorry, this is an 8-issue miniseries collected in this, and I think it retails for about $30 US. Yeah, so definitely worth it, guys. Honestly, check out this guy's art. If you haven't checked out anything from him before, you can just pick this up and enjoy. And the last of the 3 deluxe hardcovers that Image put out with great artists at the start of June that I had mentioned is this one right here. This is Rick Grimes 2000, a crazy futuristic reimagining if like aliens attacked the Walking Dead world, written by Robert Kirkman and Ryan Otley, his artist from actually Invincible, who went over to Marvel and has been working over there as of recently. I guess he was doing the Hulk with Donny Cates and did Amazing Spider-Man prior to that. But Ryan Otley, is the best artist when he's able to show his crazy violence and blood and viscera that fly around as people's arms get ripped off and fucking heads explode. So this is a title that's much more going to highlight the skills of Ryan Otley, I think. And yeah, this was just a hell of a lot of fun. Let's take all the characters from The Walking Dead and do a crazy futuristic weird take on the characters and this world that I've previously left behind years previous. And I'm glad that they did it. Honestly, this was a hell of a lot of fun. So if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, make sure you check this out. It is a very thin hardcover, I will say. I think this was like collected from like their stories that were in, I think, like 5 issues of a Skybound X anthology series that's like highlighting a bunch of the series that were coming out from Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's imprint and Image Comics. They then went and collected these short story parts from those 5 issues, this serialization of this story throughout them, and put it in a deluxe hardcover. But again, if you're a fan of The Walking Dead or just great artwork, this is well worth the presentation. Definitely check this out, pick this up. This was just so much fun because it didn't matter at this point. This is just a one-off story that's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things for Walking Dead. I mean, they got lightsabers. There's crazy alien creatures happening here. You got the governor making a reappearance. It's people that were dead previously in Walking Dead showing up. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? I think this retailed for about $20. Yeah, $20 US. Hell of a lot of fun. And again, caps off the 3 deluxe editions that came out through Image with all great art. Then you got Black Widow, Die by the Blade. This is volume 3 of the Kelly Thompson Black Widow series, which collected issues 11 to 15. And unfortunately, I believe now the series has wrapped up. This was another good volume by Kelly Thompson, who I'm a huge fan of her writing. I thought the art by there's a few different ones on here. I mean, it wasn't just Alina Casagrande, which I believe did majority of this series, but you also got Rafael De La Torre and Rafael T. Pimentel and some inkers as well. But honestly, this was good. I liked this. I enjoyed this. Not the best thing I think Kelly Thompson has done, but I also think it was pretty good. And I feel like she keeps getting her series canceled about this length in, which is a shame. I would really like to see what she does with like a long-standing series. Although I guess that you could say the longest one that she has that it has been successful currently that she's writing is her Captain Marvel series, which I really, really enjoy. That's probably the longest thing I think she's worked on at this point. I think we're going into about 30 something issues in at this point. So I take that back. I guess some series have worked for her, but yeah, I felt that she could have had more to say on this character or more to do. Felt like it was cut short for no reason. But I did kind of wrap up the current storyline that was going on with her and the whole thing about her having a child. And I hope we see more one day with her. I hope she shows up and she's a character in one of the other things that Kelly Thompson writes at some point, because I thought she did a really great job with Black Widow. So yeah, it was good. Then we got King of Spies, Mark Millar and Matteo Scalera, who's just a beast. This artist is fantastic. If you've never seen Matteo Scalera's work, definitely check this out. I really enjoyed this. I actually read this in issues as well and picked up the paperback because, Mark Millar's books doesn't seem like they ever do come out with like deluxe formats of his stuff. So I figured I better start sucking it up and actually picking up the paperbacks of the things that I've read in issues that I really enjoy of his. So I bit the bullet and bought a couple of them throughout May 2022 that were new releases from him and Image Comics. This being one of them. This is basically if, let's say, James Bond got old and we found out that he's going to die of cancer and then had like so long to live, and is basically trying to do right by all the people that he wronged because of his profession and the bad decisions that he's made and the bad people he basically was protecting throughout his life. This is him basically saying, all right, fuck it. I don't have too much longer to live. I need to start making right by people, and I got to start making up for all the people and pain that I've caused as basically part of like MI6 or whatever, like as a James Bond, like a secret agent type guy. So yeah, that's pretty much what this story is, and he ends up taking out a lot of horrible people. So, that's essentially what this miniseries is. The nice thing about Mark Millar's series, though, I find that he does is that he's kind of in and out. He doesn't spend a long time on these miniseries, maybe 4 or 5 issues. He pumps out these ideas that are obviously a lot of them primed for Hollywood or TV shows these days, but he works with some of the best artists in the industry constantly. He's able to get good people on his projects, I think, because of that, the fact that they get optioned quite often. And, he likes to tell like small little, mostly action-based stories, and I really thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was a great one, King of Spies. And speaking of Mark Millar, Magic Order Volume 2, they already announced a Volume 3 of this. This is supposedly coming to Netflix at some point, but I guess they had gotten delayed. Now, the first one I think he did with Olivier Copiel on art, and this one he does with Stuart Immonen. So again, talk about having some of the best artists to work on your books. I mean, Stuart Immonen is amazing, and if you've yet to experience his artwork, obviously I would start with Magic Order 1 because you're not going to really have a reference for some of the things that are happening in this book if you didn't read the first volume. But just take a look at this artwork, guys. Like, Stuart Immonen is fantastic. I mean, one of the best artists, that I'm glad is working on a lot of more creator-owned things these days, because I know that he had said he was retiring, but I think it was more so just from Big 2 superhero work that he was doing. So he's been putting out a few things since that announcement. So I just hope he continues in that vein. I'm here. I'll pick up anything creator-owned that he does, that he works on, because again, he's just fantastic. So Magic Order 2 Volume 2, I liked the first miniseries, I think, better than the sequel, if I'm being completely honest, but I still thought this was enjoyable. If you did like it and you're invested and you just kind of want to see the spectacular Immonen art, I definitely would pick this up. But yeah, I did think the first volume was better. Let's see how he does with the third. And then we got the complete Scarlet, Dark Horse now, who has the rights to, I guess, the Bendis books that he did, like the creator-owned stuff. What the imprint that he has, I'm forgetting it right now. Jinx World, thank you. The Jinx World imprint, now they have the rights. He kind of bounced around. He brought all this stuff from Marvel over to DC, and now he's just signed on for, I guess, Dark Horse to recollect a lot of his material. So I guess we'll see what ends up coming out from him with Dark Horse. I know they've been re-releasing all of his stuff. I would love for them to do the library edition stuff with some of his creator-owned works. Again, I don't want to have to double triple dip again on some of his stuff, but if they do release this stuff in library edition size, which is my preferred format from Dark Horse Comics, I'd be very tempted not to kind of pick up another collection of this. Now, again, Scarlet is not my favorite thing that he's ever worked on, but you got Alex Maleev on artwork. They came out with an Absolute Edition DC comics that collected, I think, half of what he did with Scarlet. And I guess since now he's brought his Jinx World stuff over to Dark Horse, we're never going to see a volume two of that Absolute Edition. So I was like, you know what? I still don't have Scarlet. Let me just pick up this nice fat chunky paperback that they're putting out through Dark Horse then, so I can have it for the shelf, because I read this in issues, did unfortunately go down the Absolute route and kind of got screwed over. So as you can tell by this this move, I wanted a complete book of this, and if they do library editions eventually, I'll probably end up picking that up, despite all of that stuff I said, and this not being one of my favorite things he's done. Love Alex Maleev. So there you go. Great artist. And this story is an interesting story with some very touchy subject matter that is very relevant, I think, even to today's time. A lot of police type business in this one, and some of the brutality that's brought on by them, essentially, and corruption, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while since I read it. Next up, we got Defenders. There Are No Rules. This is the Al Ewing Defenders miniseries that he did, collecting 1 to 5 in Marvel Comics 1000 to 1001 by Al Ewing, art by Javier Rodriguez, which is why I'll probably be keeping this, because this was not my favorite miniseries. I actually read this for the first time picking up this paperback. I love Javier Rodriguez's art, though, and he, make no mistake, he did a fantastic job on this series. My criticism is no way related to his artwork. I just thought this was a bit of a mess, sometimes hard to follow, maybe not the best miniseries and showcase Val Ewing's work. He's supposed to be doing another Defenders miniseries, so I'm interested to see what he does there, if he can redeem himself again with Javier Rodriguez on art. So I'm sure I'll be picking that up as well. But yeah, truth be told, this wasn't my favorite miniseries, but his art, my God. Oh man, he's such a great artist. I love Doctor Strange. So I still somewhat enjoyed this, but if I'm being completely honest, it was just okay. So maybe that'll make this your first purchase unless you're a huge fan of Javier Rodriguez like I am. And then look, we got an Aftershock book, which I don't see all too often, things I pick up from them as a publisher. This is written by Ed Brisson, who I'm a big fan of, and art by Damian Cosero, which I think he's worked on before. I think they worked with before. I think he did that cluster book. He did a couple other books, I think, with this artist before, different things for different publishers. It might have been for Boom. And yeah, this is a mini series, collects 1 to 5 of this Beyond the Breach storyline. It starts out with this girl, I guess, arguing, I think either on the phone with her ex or her parents. I forgot who. She's basically, having it out on the phone. I think it's her, I guess, now to be ex. And he's driving, God knows where, just needs to clear her head. There's an argument on the phone. And all of a sudden, warps into this other I guess a portal opens up and all these realities essentially make their way, other worlds make their way to Earth here. She doesn't know what the hell is going on, how this happened. Big crazy creatures are attacking her, and some guy ends up coming to her rescue that's riding around on a big tortoise, who's like a wizard type looking character. Let's see if we can see him there. Well, that's one of the big creatures going to eat her. There's another car that's abandoned of a family that with a kid that she ends up trying to protect as a result. Yeah, there's the tortoise. And then this guy basically comes to her rescue, this mysterious, weird old man with a weird wizard type cap, and is riding this tortoise around. And it kind of just goes from there. It continues to go off the rails, and you start to get to know this guy and where he's from, and and they try to figure out what's going on. And I won't spoil it all for you guys, but it's an interesting, fun story. I quite enjoyed this, and that's why I had to pick up the trade. Read this digitally online. Wasn't sure about it, but I really enjoyed the first couple of issues, so I ended up picking this up. And apparently there's going to be more, so there's that as well. I really enjoyed this. I like Ed Brisson. I think he did a good job with this. It is a fun story, and I'm looking forward to more. All right, now we're getting to the books that I've never read before that I ended up picking up throughout the month of May 2022. First up, we got volume 17 of Full Metal Alchemist. Again, not much to say on this, although I other than I'm looking forward to reading this finally. I think there's only one more volume of the Full Metal edition, which is the hardcovers that have been collecting I guess a volume and a half of this series. So I think there's about one more volume to go, if I'm not mistaken. So once that comes out, I'm going to commit to sitting down and reading this series. I've read I think the first several volumes in this format. I've attempted to read this series twice. First in the original paperback mangas I was picking up. Then they announced this, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop picking these up. I'm gonna pick it up in this nicer format. And I read about several of them and fell off. So I got to find where I kind of left off or restart all over again. So I very much looking forward to this. So I've read enough to know that I do enjoy this series, and of course, the anime is a huge deal. People love that series, and I'm looking forward to checking that out once I actually finish reading this. So that may be one of the next mangas that I commit to reading once the last volume is out. So volume 18 coming soon. Very much looking forward to this. Then we got Batman the Dark Knight Detective Volume 6. They keep pumping these out, which I'm really happy about, this era of Batman, which is largely uncollected. On this one, you got Peter Milligan, Marv Wolfman, Jim Amparo, some great names and creative teams on here. So yeah, again, these are very hard to get a hold of, guys. If these go out of print, there's a couple of volumes that are super hard to get a hold of right now. So if you didn't jump on the bandwagon early of collecting these paperbacks, which are basically Batman epics, that between this and the Cape Crusader volumes, I think, which have both come out with about 6 volumes so far. They're collecting everything from Batman and Detective Comics at that time, which was, I guess, the late 80s prior to the 90s stuff, or maybe we're getting into early 90s now, but it's an era of Batman I haven't read for the most part. It's all post-crisis Batman stuff. And there's a lot of great people that worked on the books at these times, as you can see. A lot of the Norm Brayfogle drawn stuff, I think, might be over in the Cape Crusader books. But anyways, yeah, in the Batman title, uh, great stuff. I haven't read any of them yet. I've read a few smaller stories that were collected in previous paperbacks. There's the Peter Milligan Dark Knight, Dark City, which if it's not in this one, it may have been in the previous one. I think that's going to be recollected in this format, which is very good. And yeah, I'm just glad I own these. And happy hunting out there if you missed out on some of the previous volumes. This is great stuff. You got to own this. And we got Hulk Epic Collection Crossroads. This is Epic Collection 13 of the Hulk line. And this collects 297 to 313 of the Incredible Hulk, Annual 13, and Alpha Flight 29. I think this is the end of the Bill Mantlo run, and this is kind of what this is eventually goes into, I think, the John Byrne short period on the book. Yeah, I think this is the Going Gray is the volume that comes after this in the Epic line. I think there's going to be about 3 or 4 of the Bill Mantlo period, which I heard is quite good. And I'm actually going to be using as a starting point on the Hulk. So if this leads into this very short period that John Byrne was on it, which leads into Peter David's long epic run on the Hulk, which I've been collecting the omnibuses for. So I've committed to picking this up as well. All the Mantlo ones that they come out with. And this is actually the first one, I believe, in epics. They were previously collected in these other collections through Marvel Comics. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I heard this is great stuff. So yeah, this is definitely one I'm looking forward to checking out for the first time. Oh, there's Nightmare right there. Doctor Strange. You got the Defenders connection there. Yeah, so very much looking forward to this because this is some of the best stuff I heard that came before Peter David's time on the book, which obviously most people have stated is the best period of the Hulk. And speaking of Peter David's Hulk, we got Omnibus Volume 4 here. Look at that. And they actually just announced future solicitations of a Volume 5 that's going to be, I guess, collecting some odds and ends type stuff. Although, like, I guess other miniseries or one-shot things that he did with the Hulk over the years. Although I believe this Volume 4 of the Omnibus finishes his actual time on the Incredible Hulk monthly series. So yeah, again, I started reading the first omnibus. I got to get back to it. But this is just such a well-revered run that I have picked up most of this blindly. I started picking this up originally through Epic Collections, and then once they started announcing the omnibuses, I'm happy I've been collecting those. So there's going to be a Volume 5 coming, as well as an omnibus that collects all of the Maestro stuff, including his I guess the last 3 miniseries that he's been doing these last couple of years through Marvel Comics, which have all been really enjoyable, and some of the other appearances, I guess, that he did with Maestro, including like his little series as well, like that he did prior to the more recent stuff. So there's gonna be a Maestro omnibus as well that comes out. Oh, the leader. Yeah, so very much looking forward to diving into all this. Glad that I own it, and more omnibuses to come of Peter David's time on the Hulk. And I'm continuing to collect these EC horror books that come out, the EC archives, the Vault of Horror one specifically here. This is volume 2. Again, haven't read too many of these, but I've heard that these are some of the best comics ever done. And if you're a fan of horror stories or like Tales from the Crypt type stuff, which is one of the series that's collected in these, definitely check these out. The fact that they're reprinting them in these cheap, very easily affordable paperbacks after the hardcovers have been long out of print through Dark Horse. Finally, I'm glad they're reprinting these. I had to jump on that. And again, this is one of those things I'm probably going to commit to just buying outright without having read a lot of them, just to own them because they're hard to find in the hardcover format. It's great that they're bringing them out in this paperback formats. I think they're $20 retail, $19.99 US. Yeah, it's a great deal. I mean, this collects Vault of Horror 18 to 23. So yeah, these paperbacks are great. I think it's like Weird Science is one of the other ones that they're coming out with, and Tales from the Crypt. And I'm collecting all like the science fiction-y horror ones that they're putting out. And we got the Moon Knight Omnibus, who's very popular right now after his show by Houston, Benson, and Hurwitz. David Finch on art. I believe, for most of that run. And I'm very much looking forward to reading this. This is an omnibus I don't want to keep on the shelf for too long. I actually want to dive into this as soon as possible. I'm currently doing a reading of the current IDW Ninja Turtles book, though. So once I think I'm done with that and caught up, I might dive into this. Very much looking forward to this. I've heard a lot of great things about this book. This is, I guess, that vengeance of the Moon Knight era or whatever in the 2000s. And, I'm not too familiar with too much of the writers in this book. I mean, I know of them. I haven't read too much of their work. I know most of them are also known as crime writers, I believe, as well. David Finch, also not the hugest fan of his art, but I heard this is bloody and gory and kind of 90s kind of action-esque type, extreme type stuff going on at some points of this book. But I did hear it is a good run of Moon Knight, and I'm a big fan of Moon Knight, so I did end up wanting to pick this up still. So here we are, all collected in one nice omnibus here, this era of Moon Knight, and very much looking forward to checking this one out. And last but not least, we got X-Men: The Fall of the Mutants omnibus, as they continue to collect all of Chris Claremont's era of X-Men in omnibus form. I believe this was a oversized hardcover previous to now. So some of you might already have a hardcover that's pretty much identical to this, other than the fact that there says omnibus on it out there. I, however, was never able to get that. It was out of print nowadays. So the fact that they reprinted this with the omnibus logo on it, I'm happy to have this. I've heard good things about this event, this era in X-Men, so I'm looking forward to it. But it is a Claremont era omnibus for the X-Men, which is almost all collected this era through omnibus form. So I had to add it to the collection, and I'm really happy that I did and that I own it, and before it goes out of print again. So yeah, very much looking forward to this, and I'll let you guys know what's collected in this before we wrap up here. Great cover, by the way. I think that's Alan Davis, if I'm not mistaken. X Factor 18 to 26, Uncanny X-Men 220 to 227, New Mutants 55 to 61, Incredible Hulk 336 to 337, and 340, Power Pack 35, Daredevil 252, Captain America 339, and Fantastic Four 312 is collected in this omnibus. I guess it went into a bunch of other books this event at that time, and I'm gonna actually check on that because shame on me if that isn't the artist. Front cover art, Alan Davis, Paul Neary, and Javier Rodriguez. Okay, there you go. I just want to double check on that because I'm like, it looks like Alan Davis, but if I'm wrong, these X-Men fans are gonna jump down my throat. So there you go, guys. Shame on me if I got that one wrong. But yeah, there you go. Follow the Mutants, X-Men omnibus. All right, well, that's going to do it, everybody, for another episode of Niko's Comic Book Hauls and Reviews on the Late Night Collectors community. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw here today, let me know in the comments if you have any, questions or suggestions about what to do, what to add to these videos, any comments on the quality of the video. Please let me know. And hit the like button, hit the notification bell to be notified. Make sure you're subscribed for when these do come out monthly. And thanks again for watching them. Check out all of our other content here on the channel, our playlist, our weekly comic book review show that I do with my buddy Chris, Comic Shop Talk, as well as the trading card stuff that we do on here. We do other hobby related stuff, things that we're into, of interest of ours on the channel as well. So definitely check that out and let me know what you think. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys next month.